Hey, primates! Links to the video we react to today are in the description below. Also be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell to be notified whenever we go live or put out new content. It really helps us out. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show! This is the most important video I have ever watched. Some of you have called me a commentator, a commentary channel, a reaction channel, a drama channel. You've called me all kinds of whatever the freaks. I think of myself as a variety streamer. I am not an advocate into anything. I am not the voice of any persons except myself. My opinions mean nothing except to the people who give my opinions meaning, because I am nobody. I am not a smarticle person. I am not an intelligent monkey. However, there is one thing I will stand for to the death. One hill that I will gladly die on. This is the most important situation, drama. The most important charity? No, advocable thing. This is important stuff right now, and I'm being super serial. People are on the internet being mean to monkeys. This is not okay. And this should not be allowed on the interwebs. You leave monkeys alone. And finally, this hero, this legend, an absolute amazing person, Mudahar, finally comes out and says what we've all been thinking. There are some freaks and weirdos on the internet that like to mess with monkeys, and this is not okay.
Guys and gals,
we gotta stop this.
And if you know there's one side of the internet and one pillar of my channel is looking at sides of the internet that I honestly wish never existed. Now, to start off with, ladies and gentlemen, obviously on YouTube there's plenty of weird rabbit holes that probably shouldn't exist. Things like Elsagate, things like the Indian teaching channels where, you know, unfortunately children are brought into. But one thing that shouldn't exist is Monkeygate. And if you don't remember this, you probably...
Monkeygate! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the deepest, darkest part of the internet.
Know about those rabbit holes on YouTube where, at least in Southeast Asia, there are lots of channels that exist that solely are providing content where animals are put into actual serious dangerous situations. Now, it's debatable, I guess, by people if these are animals caught in the wild or if they've been placed by people who just want to make that 6 million view video. It's crazy stuff. But of course, this is a video that focuses on an investigation done by the BBC and the internet in general, from all corners, the safest sides to the 4chan, Kiwi Farms areas of the internet, where people come together to unmask some of the scariest people operating in these situations. And the investigation has led to the revealing and the charging of seriously scary individuals that have been perpetrating a pretty disgusting area on the internet. Now, obviously, I'm not going to show you guys and gals any of the stuff on the internet, okay? I'm not going to present some of these videos because A, that would be against YouTube's terms of services, and also I really don't feel comfortable putting actual harm. I think talking about it is one thing, and that's fine, okay? Discussing it fleetingly, but not showing you the graphic nature of it, okay? So that being said, you can...
Yeah, no, but there are definitely people out there full-blown torturing monkeys on YouTube.
Relax, sit carefully, and just watch alongside. Now, when it comes to animal content on the internet, I've covered this in the last several years. One of the biggest videos on this channel was talking about a TikTok cat killer at the time. And what had occurred with this video was the internet had come together and I basically investigated this thing. I looked at it, I looked down the rabbit hole, and obviously the internet obviously looked into it as well. And there were several investigation groups, but what the most important of all involved the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The FBI ended up actually arresting the person behind this situation and getting them into prison. On July 17, 2020, on Kokomo, Indiana, there was actually a woman that was believed to be, torturing and hurting animals. And this individual was arrested Tuesday afternoon at their residence near Kokomo, and they faced federal counts of animal crushing and creating content.
Crushing, dude! That's so specific! The poor cats!
like this. To give you an idea, the FBI takes this stuff incredibly seriously. If you go to the
As they
FBI.gov
should.
when they talk about animal cruelty, they will tell you that they treat this in the same level of something like homicide. To the FBI, acts of
You
cruelty...
gotta understand as well that it's been a lot of research that people who are harmful towards animals tend to have you tend to see that. I'm not saying anything, but you tend to see the similar traits in murderers and psychopaths, and most times they do end up liking torturing animals.
are now counted alongside felony
So
crimes
I'm just
like
saying,
arson,
they should be treating
burglary,
it pretty
assault,
serious.
and homicide in their criminal database. And of course, one of the reasonings for this is, according to Nelson Ferry, there are studies that say that the cruelty can show a precursor to larger crimes that can happen.
Yeah,
see?
see?
If you follow individuals that are truly disturbed, you may find this is a entry pattern into later, more egregious behavior. So of course, the FBI and plenty of state agencies get involved. Now, the problem with this kind of stuff is not every government looks at animals or looks at this crime in the same lens, just because of cultural differences and because the capacities and the resources that are given to each government agency incredibly vary by country. So, of course, some of this stuff ends up happening in countries that don't really have the same level of enforcement. A lot of these monkey groups exist in places like Thailand, like India, where places are, again, still emerging, and of course these agencies don't necessarily treat all of this stuff with the same level of respect and understanding that the FBI or really other agencies in the Western world look at it. Now, 7 days ago, according to the old BBC over here, one of the ringleaders of this operation...
They legit have an organized crime syndicate for freaking torturing monkeys! What is wrong with y'all? Leave Monkey alone!
Also dubbed the Torture King, ended up basically being charged. Now, this individual right here, Michael McCartney, who apparently is facing up to 5 years in prison on charges related to distributing some of these
You are
crushing
not
videos,
helping the Trump
is
supporters by
actually
putting
being
those
like,
flags up.
This is the reward this
You are
person
not
is
exactly helping their
basically
image.
Now, according to BBC, who did this investigation, where it was a pretty long-term investigation, one that they titled "Hunting These Monkey Torturers Out There," where again they had uncovered a massive global ring of this kind of stuff. So according to the investigation, in May 2021, one of the first big groups in this entire underground shitty rabbit hole actually showcased. And that group was known as the Million Tears, sorry, not Tears. And of course, if you look at some of the messages that were on YouTube talking about the situation, these were messages that were allegedly posted underneath these crushing videos that had existed on YouTube and various social media services, where you involve...
I mean, that feels like a self-report right there. Like somebody, like the FBI should be looking into David here. You get what I'm saying?
All individuals say, love watching this stuff. How can I find him? How can I pay him? And of course, people underneath it, bots most likely, responded with Telegram, being a social media service where you can share information and messages and media relatively anonymously. So the BBC ended up actually naming names like Mike McCartney, who we just looked at, the actual, apparently the torture king in this situation. And of course, some of the things that have been said were pretty disgusting in this situation. But McCartney effectively saw a money-making opportunity where they downloaded videos that were just posted on YouTube, and then they sold it in another group that they were involved, known as Apes Cage, where they sold and traded these to an entire community of sickos that enjoyed this kind of nonsense. But this guy still wasn't the person...
So he basically was just like buying and reselling monkey torture
at the top. According
videos,
to the BBC, the person at the top was somebody known as Mr. Ape. Now, initially, I thought this was like straight out of the game Manhunt from Rockstar, where inside that game, the person running the Snuff Media organization was a guy known as Mr. Nasty. But it's crazy how sometimes even the most wildest of video games and media and movies and television sometimes mirror unfortunate reality. So who is this Mr. Ape fella according to the old BBC? Well, before we go into it, some of the messages that he ended up saying was the price for things like clamping, for instance, were $175. They said they had roughly 3,500 videos in their collection. And they invited 3 key individuals that were targets of this investigation, ringleaders, so to speak. One of them you all know as a torture king, but there were 2 others known as Sadistic and Immolator. Now,
What
of
the
course,
frick? And they all
McCarthy
give
over here,
themselves like
actually, according to
torture, like
Yahoo, by
torture
the way,
names.
agreed and basically,
Like they're working at the
cooperated
dungeons
with
of
the
the
Department
castle.
of Homeland Security and pled guilty to those conspiracy charges. And of course, in this situation, he basically at least admitted in this to BBC's investigation, I was the man. You want to see monkeys get messed up? I could bring it to you. To the other individuals that ended up being busted down,
Bro, this is scarier than any of the horror ghost monster alien videos y'all recommend me. There's somebody out here looking out, like, they're looking for, they're hunting us down.
were Holly Legresley and
Primates?
Adriana Orm.
We gotta
and some
watch
of these
our
people are
backs.
55 years of age. So, you're getting up there, and this is the kind of shit you're involved in? What the fuck? And it depends on what their level of involvement was with Legresley and Orn, because some of these people apparently were just moderators in the group versus actual, I guess, distributors. That has actually yet to be uncovered and properly discussed. But of course, their screen names were the Immolator and Sadistic, so you can imagine where their mental head was. Now, Mr. Ape, whose apparent name has basically been kept away to preserve their safety. Now, I don't know if that necessarily means that this person may have been a minor doing this, which would be really, really wild if that is the case. But again, in this entire situation, according to the old BBC, they apparently confessed they were responsible for the deaths of at least 4 monkeys. But the other thing was this is the wild.
That's 4 too many, dude. This is why we all need to just give up this whole humanity business and just return to Monkey. Return to Monkey, because we don't deserve to have all this intelligence, bro. Forget this.
All this stuff that I've read from this investigation. So what they said was the group initially started as a front, essentially, to catch the people who were involved. So I guess they were all trying to nail each other. But basically, they wanted to end up catching these individuals so bad that, at least to Mr. Ape, they got too into character and ended up running the show, which is actually insanity if this is the situation, right? Like, you
I
guys
wanted
are
to
all
stop the
sick
monkey hate.
bastards running this entire operation, making a crap ton of money out of it. Now, how is this actually done? Okay, well, this is actually from a United States, I believe it's a plea agreement. I made this video 7 months ago where I talked about this specific situation again. But if you look at this stuff, you can see that on December 28, 2021, this is from, again, legal paperwork, a videographer in Indonesia sent an encrypted message via an online messaging app to the defendant. KS attached a photograph of a juvenile macaw into the message and told the defendant, if you want it, it's only 100, that's okay. I've already bid. Who got it was my neighbor, so cheap. 5 minutes later, the defendant replied, yeah, I'll take it.
And people are actually paying money for these videos.
Defendant if he wanted pliers or hammers. And of course, what you're seeing over here is obviously what the method of,
they wanted the hammer to break the skull
is going to be. Okay, this is when things get really messed up. They're literally bidding on how to produce these very disgusting videos. And obviously for $100 US, the video is then sent back over here. And in this case, the actual person sent the defendant 10 video files. And a special agent reviewed those videos and provided following descriptions, which I'm not going to get into. But you can see that
if you read it, it's freaking messed up, dude.
In this situation, or a little bit more, video files were provided, and then these were then sold into these Telegram groups by disgusting individuals. So basically, these people were the fixers. They went to the supply, and they basically provided, the people who wanted the demand for this kind of disgusting behavior. Now, I want to shout out Yardfish. He's not necessarily the largest YouTuber, but he's done a lot of...
I'm sorry, bro. I read and reread that. They really were just cracking the poor baby monkey's skull and, using pliers to pick it up by its lips. And, the description was freaking vile, dude. Y'all gotta read that. That's some horror movie stuff, bro. That's some snuff film stuff.
Content regarding this kind of stuff because, they've got a bit of passion for this. And one of their more recent videos, unfortunately touching upon this, is the cat ring as well from 3 months ago. A near 15-minute
There's also a cat
video,
torture ring?
absolutely worth watching, okay? And before we get into the cat side of it, obviously, going into the YouTube side, this stuff still actually exists. And the problem with some of this content is obviously animal-related content is very touchy on YouTube. It's very touchy in general because it's very hard to discern somebody who produces content to be, designed to be consumed by actual sickos versus just general nature photography, okay? Animal violence happens in the natural world anyways, and sometimes documenting that can just be a natural part of life. Uploading that can be a natural part of life. It doesn't necessarily mean that somebody has produced this kind of content in order to be malicious. So for instance, there are channels that I found immediately within like 5 minutes of filming these videos, known as monster wildlife, where again, these are Komodo moments, right? And of course, if you look at this, the Komodo dragon, or at least what they're talking about, is actually just straight up hunting animals, all right? In fact, the thumbnails for this kind of stuff can get...
Look, if you live in Australia, or if you live in specifically Madagascar, wherever the frick, and you happen to be recording a Komodo dragon hunting down a wild boar or something, that's one thing. You get me? You freaking purchase a boar carcass and throw it in the middle of a bunch of Komodo dragons. That's one thing. But if you like go and injure a boar and then let it go loose or something like that, in like, you get me? You start to get yourself personally involved. Like, you're starting to take it too far, I feel like.
Get nearly graphic, to the point where entire goat torsos are basically being eaten out. And of course, if you look at it, these videos are entirely monetized in the situation too, so clearly YouTube doesn't care about the actual content in here. I guess it just works. And they are graphic videos. We're talking literally within seconds of watching them, things can get quite dark. But where it gets even scarier is even videos from September 7, 2021, so not that long ago, by the way. We're looking at less than 3 years. You've got the Monke group with 161,000 subscribers, pulling views in the 6.7 million category. And of course, the titles are Bad Monkeys Killing Orphan Baby Monkey in the Pool. So obviously, these people are just...
I mean, to what degree do you step in at that point? Like, grab a stick and shoo it off. Like, leave the baby alone.
filming monkeys in a situation that are unfortunately, you know, causing violence to one another. And this is entirely part of full-on playlists on YouTube that you can actually watch right now.
I don't know. I feel like I would get involved there and like shoo it off and to leave the baby alone.
It's not necessarily that the channel is all bad even, except that the videos that they produce that are just positive or like neutral about these monkey related topics get literally no viewership in comparison to the actual videos where you know, monkeys are unfortunately harmed. There is a weird subset of individuals on YouTube that just love to watch this content, or at least if it's put into a playlist, it's shared in an entire group of people that just love to share it around and watch this kind of content. And it's not the only channel. There's other stuff like Neonate Monkey, where millions are breaking heart, the miserable life of a baby monkey, why adult monkey mistreated a baby one. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily true, but reading one of the comments in the situation that was the most upvoted, they had said if you knew the whole story, the photographer in this video fed the baby out of turn, so the hierarchy monkeys are punishing.
Oh, they pulling some sneaky shiz, dude! Yeah, because monkeys get really pissed about, like, the social hierarchy stuff. That's an interesting one. I didn't even think about that being a form of, like, how they could, like, make them fight each other or get mad, like...
She's trying to beg for forgiveness, but the matriarch's daughter isn't having it, so she keeps punishing the baby. There's a full video of this on the net from the beginning. The guy omitted the beginning of it. It's why there are signs, do not feed the monkeys, because there is a strict order in the groups. The videographers know this, but to keep things exciting, they often feed them out of turn so they can get some chaos for viewers. It was set up to get views. They purposefully do this so they have something to film, and then neglect to tell the viewers what really happened and fabricate clickbait. I don't think it's just fabricating clickbait. If this comment is to be believed, it's also fabricating a pretty dangerous situation for a monkey. Again, animal harm is something where like these creatures have no idea about what's really going on. People who are of higher, elevated intelligence, human beings, are putting actual creatures into danger just for the sake of content on the internet. 3.6 million views. Is it worth it? Obviously not. But again,
that many views for, like... You're gonna torture a creature for that many views? You're gonna mess with them? Like, traumatize these poor little monkeys?
You are, you're only looking at this as a dollar sign.
For chump change views like that?
The thing about the situation is a positive has occurred. In the largest monkey gate group on the internet, it appears that at least 4 ringleaders have been apparently brought to justice or have been actually investigated by law enforcement agencies. But again, the problem with some of this stuff is while, yes, this is a serious blow and it's a very positive bit of information, unfortunately, this is an industry that is so large to the point where, like, now it's occurring in totally different regions, okay? Regions that we actually have no control in. In the last few days, I've actually had a few people reach out to me and discuss about the cat situation in China. And about a month ago, you can read on, the Reddit
This is
forum
in China?
Animal
Okay.
Rights. For instance, cat groups in China are posting videos of cats that are unfortunately, they're ending them for apparently fun. They've been placing things
Blenders, meat grinders, boiled alive, burned, electrocuted,
like
and
blenders
more.
and whatnot, and we've obviously looked into situations like this. China,
What
when
the
I
frick,
researched
China?
this, actually doesn't have any real laws in regards to proper animal welfare. Now, the group involved in this is known as Feline Guardians Without Borders, and these are the people that create the petitions internationally to help the Chinese government, or at least get the Chinese government to at least try to take action. Now, is this something that's going to necessarily happen? Well, it depends on how seriously the Chinese government wants to take it. One of the things that was being talked about, and again, feel free to completely dispute this, because of a language barrier, it can be sometimes difficult to cover the situation. But for instance, one of the groups over here, one of the actual situations is a few individuals in China have been basically finding stray cats through applications that are developed for positive reasons. For instance, one of the applications is Hello Street Cat by the Guangxi Hachong Network Technology Corporation. And of course, this app strives to facilitate the
Oh, that's such a cool little idea. Where you can, like, go and help, like, feed stray cats so they're not abandoned. But then people are using it to kidnap the cats and torture them.
feeding of stray cats by the use of, again, the intelligent stray cat management houses where you can record, stream videos, and you can dispense kibbles, treats every time a user donates. So for instance, these little devices that contain like treats, kibbles, and whatnot, you can interact with them and I guess donate and feed these poor stray animals. And according to some of the actual people researching this in the animal rights Reddit groups, they've said that viral stray cats have been put bounties and hunted by clans or these cruelty operations where they capture these cats and unfortunately put them through some really grueling things. Now, obviously, in this situation, I'm not here to spread, I guess, xenophobia, which is one of the things that's been brought up over here. I don't think it's necessarily a problem with the Chinese people. I think it's just...
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with it. It has to do with Chinese law. Not freaking, like, putting up stricter rules and enforcing this. But, let's be real. There's sickos in every freaking country, every society, every culture, every freaking, like, why?
Criminals
Stop torturing animals.
Loose laws. And if you look at some of those loose laws, for instance, unfortunately, according to animal welfare and rights in China, there are currently no nationwide laws in China that prohibit the mistreatment of animals, except for a more generic law that protects wildlife, which again exists mostly in many countries to protect truly endangered species that sometimes are entire faces of countries, right? Things like the bald eagle in the United States, or situations where you got panda bears who exclusively belong to China, or, things like the markhors who exclusively belong, from my understanding, in the mountains of Pakistan. And of course, if you look into Chinese law, for instance, right over here, in Article 1, Chapter 1, in order to protect wild animals, save precious and endangered wild animals, maintain biodiversity and ecological balance, promote the construction of ecological civilization, promote the harmonious coexistence of man and nature, and formulate this law. And you can read through most of this, but this is the Wildlife Protection Law, which again is more general and is designed to obviously cater towards, again, endangered species, more than average animal laws in general. Now look, at the end of the day, this is truly a disgusting part of the internet, and again, the part about this ending when I talk about China is also to help raise awareness from a group that has asked me to, and people that have asked in this situation. And of course I decided, sure, why not? Talk about the situation. Also to remind people that even with this disgusting industry, even if you stop one thing, it becomes a giant game of fucking whack-a-mole. And unfortunately, that's where the entire shift has taken to. But for the longest time on YouTube, there was an entire group known as the MonkeyGate group, or MonkeyGate is a generic term to bring in all of these groups in this entire phenomenon. And
we got ElsaGate, now we got MonkeyGate.
Well, in fringe cases, this phenomenon still exists because of the takedown of some of these individuals, thankfully by the BBC and especially by international law enforcement. It seems like one of the massive dents and blows has happened, which is ultimately a net good in this situation. So ladies and gentlemen, I kind of wanted to bring to you the end of the situation. I like bringing endings to stories. I don't like leaving things unchecked. And this is one of those
this
things
is a great thing that they
wanted to
caught
leave
a lot of
unchecked.
these freaking,
But
like,
ladies and gentlemen,
psychos
let me
and
know what you think about
ringleaders.
it in the comment section below. If you like what you saw, please like, comment,
Actual
and subscribe.
genuine
Dislike,
victory.
dislike, I am out.
Today.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're
Like,
here.
genuinely, actual victory happening today, my dude. It's freaking phenomenal. Thank you so much, Primates, for watching this all the way to the end. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit the little bell for a rainbow explosion that will go ahead and notify you every single time we go live or put out new content. Thank you so much, goodbye, and thanks for swinging by.